All right. So the lab we are going to perform here is for the initial Expressway series configuration. Here we will just see and go through some options which you get on Expressway. So this is important for you to familiar with the Expressway options. So from this, I will just walk you through what all different options we have, and then we'll do some basic initial configuration as well. So this is where you can see an overview, which just gives you information about the system mode, some registered licenses, and so on. Just try to. This page is not fully loaded, but just on the right hand side bottom, you see the serial number that I was just mentioning about in the licensing portion. So on the overview page on the right bottom, when you log into your lab, you can see it just on the right bottom somewhere here. You will see the serial number of the license as we have these licensed versions. So you will be able to find those serial numbers here just in case when you have to raise any TAC request or something. So that would be required. So you can find it from here from the overview page itself. You can see the license information and all those like option keys, what all option keys we have. So like we have 10 RMS, 10 room system, desktop, all those like a brief overview here. Then we have these options like system, status, configuration, application, users, maintenance. So let's go through that. So first on the overview page, when you log in, I'm not able to show you that part here, but just go to the right bottom, just review, you will see a serial number which is tied to the licensing. You can also find the version of Expressway which you are using just here on the right hand side. I'm not just able to load that. Then next is you can see the status. Let's go to status. In status, the part we have multiple options. I would recommend you just play around and go through various options that you can find here. Not all will be used here, but the important ones which we are going to work on, I will just give you an overview of that here. So in status, like registrations, we can go to registration and see the registered devices by device, by alias, or a history of registered or unregistered devices and so on. So if you click by device, right now we do not have anything in my expressway, so no registered devices showing here. But otherwise, we can see a list of devices. We can see by alias, any registration by any specific alias we can see here. So this is basically the system tab is all about monitoring and troubleshooting things. So you can just like verify, monitor from here, do some troubleshooting like search history. You can see call history, registration history, alarms, things like that. Yeah, policy services to verify, bandwidth utilization to verify, hardware, logs, different types of logs like event, configuration logs, network logs. So these we can find here. So basically this particular tab status is used for monitoring and troubleshooting purpose. So let me just show you a few, like if we go to calls, let's suppose call history, we can see a log of history here. So I would want you to go through it in your pod. Then search history will give you a history of the recent calls, if it was successful or terminated or failed, and then the reasons of those, and a detailed log of the search history. Then you can find zones. You can find local zone. Local zone would be it's like the expressway itself is a part of a local zone. So every expressway server has a local zone. Yeah. Then we have different zones configured on it, like if we have a traversal zone or a neighbor zone configured, all of that information we can find here. We can see bandwidth, yeah, bandwidth utilization that we can find in two ways, links or pipes. Yeah, so this is basically these three things: local zones, zones, bandwidth. In bandwidths, we have pipes and links. We will talk about it in the links topic in the zones. So these are basically used to monitor the bandwidth utilization while the calls are processed in real time. So while calls are active going on in the real time, we can go and go to the status and find in the local zones and bandwidth utilization to monitor it. Then logs for event log. This is the one basically which is more commonly used for logs. Some lag here. Yeah. So event log, you can see here by default, the event log level is set to 1. We can change that level to any higher level if we want more detailed log. So usually for the type of troubleshootings we do in our enterprise, event log gives you enough information for that. Like you can see some information here, detailed log, including the source, destination, user information. If any registration fails, for example, yeah, you can find it here as within the log that why it was failed and from what source to what destination. So a detailed log can be obtained by default, which is set to level 1, which is, as I said, is enough for the basic troubleshooting within the enterprise. But if we need more detailed log, for example, if we are not able to find the issue in level 1 log, we can change the log level from maintenance. Yeah. So from maintenance, we can go to here, logging, and you can find local event log verbosity. You can see it is set to 1. If I click here, it just gives you information also that default is 1. We can change it to up to 4. Yeah. So the more detailed, 4 is the maximum. It will give you a very detailed log. So you can maybe find from there if you're not able to find within the default 1 log information, or if you want to raise a case with Cisco TAC and you want to send a detailed log, you can do it from there. Yeah. So this is about diagnostics we can do. So status and maintenance are like just related to one another. What we can find on status, we can configure and modify on maintenance. These are the two which are used for monitoring diagnostic purposes. Then in maintenance, we have also backup and restore. This is also very important. So backup and restore you can do. You can add keys from here, option keys that you can find here after logging. Option keys we can find here. So like I mentioned, in a license expressway, if you want to add option keys, you can do it from here. Add option, can put the option key number and add it. It will be get added here, and you will see under active options here it will be added like that. So about for day to day in keep up of the server, we can use this maintenance. You can go to tools. You can find some tools for help. For example, check pattern. Check pattern is a tool. Here you do not make any changes. This is just a tool which help you create some configurations. For example, when we configure dial plan in Expressway, we can use regular expressions. Yeah. So for checking those regular expressions or pattern types, we can first create the pattern here, uh, like a dial plan that we create. Yeah. If you're familiar with like the route pattern in CUC, same way here. So if any pattern we want to create here, we can first test from here, check pattern. If it is successful, it will show you here if it is successful or not. Let's suppose we have 4001. We want the pattern type exact. String 4001. We want this has to be matched exactly and check. So this is just a very simple example. We will get into more detail of that, this as well. But you can just check this. So this is a tool where you can see your configuration just to avoid any errors directly making it in the configuration part. Yeah. So from here you can use those tools. Check patterns, port usage, yeah, network utilities. This is also a very good tool for testing. Again, for testing like DNS lookup, you can do. Yeah, so from here you can do ping, trace route, trace path. So if you want to check, let's suppose a ping or trace route to your other expressway device, or let's suppose expressway E or any other components within your network, or trace route or trace path. or DNS lookup you want to do, you can do it from here. You can put the domain name of the DNS and just use a query type. Usually for domain to IP, we use A type query. So select that and just click lookup and it will give you the result. So if it is successful, you can see it here. Query type, name, equal, and response should be successful. Yeah, so all those testing, diagnostics, things we can do from maintenance here. Yeah, serviceability for any services you want to enable from here. Yeah, restart option, any services you want to restart, all that we can do here. Then comes these which are very commonly used for making changes. So the voice engineers tasks are all dependent on these main options here: system, configuration, applications, and users. These are all used for configurations and modifications in combination to one another. So if we begin with systems here, system gives you network related settings. Yeah, so like you can see network interface, DNS, time configuration, SNMP, clustering, quality of service, all those configurations we can do. So here we will be focusing on network interfaces for now. So here you can see Ethernet, IP, any static routes you want to configure from here. So let's suppose IP. So we can see gateway IP, IPv4 address. We can verify or we can configure or make changes from here. Yeah. You can just simply save it. And once you save it, you can see it under the status below and verify from here. So that is about the network related settings that we can do from here. Then comes configuration. This I would again say out of these four options I mentioned, this is the one which is the mostly used by the engineers. So we spend most of the time here on the VCS or Expressway to configure Expressway to manage the video network. So here you will do the registration, call routing, policies, all of that. So if we see here registration, configuration, registration policy by default is set to none. We can change it to allow list, deny list. Yeah. So these are nothing but the restrictions that we want to enable for registration of the endpoints. So let's suppose I create an allow list and I save it. Then it will ask me to configure the registration allow list. Either I can go directly from this related task, or I can simply go from here allow list. So first, what you need to do is under registration, you need to configure the policy what you want, whether you want to create an allow list or deny list. Once you create that here, just select it, and then you want no, you will have to go to that list and create a list. So in that you can add a new list. Let's suppose I want only the endpoints with a domain cisco.com to be registered. So I can just click new, add that. Description is optional. You can create any pattern based on exact match. Let's suppose here cisco.com. So only with I would say not exact, so not exact, but with the suffix. I want any end devices with the suffix cisco.com should be allowed. And automatically anything else apart from this would be denied. Yeah. So only this will be allowed. So if I want to allow another domain, I would have to add one more in the allow list. Yeah, everything else would be denied. If I add a deny list, then everything else would be allowed on except for the denied list. Yeah. And we can then see the configuration here. We have an allow list configured. Yeah, as a restriction policy. If we go to this link here, this will take us to the same page where you can go either from the configuration or from the related task.